for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Doubleheader style. Had two games tonight. Kicked off the night with an early tilt between the Jets and the Dolphins, some AFC East family business. Actually wasn't a bad game, but as I said earlier, no one asked for this. No one wanted this, but it was forced upon us. We then finished up the night with the Broncos hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Once again, nobody asked for this, especially without Joe Burrow. The league did not know Burrow was going to be hurt. This actually had the makings of being a good game. Remember, these two teams played each other last year, week 17, Saturday evening. Was a great football game. That did not occur tonight. And so really you got two non-competitive games for the most part. Dolphins, Jets, felt like the Dolphins were in total control of that game, really from start to finish. The hopes of the Jets really were dashed. Felt like both games had a really pivotal moment in those games where you kind of knew, okay, this game is probably going to not go in the favor of the road team. For the Jets, it was the Braylon Edwards fumble, right? Like, that is a quintessential Jets drive. I told you guys earlier during the skill game that the Jets are a run-dominant team with Justin Fields in at quarterback. It's almost like they don't trust him to throw the football in third down situations. How many 3rd and 6, 7 and 8s and 5s tonight did you see them throw it on? Until it was literally down 2 scores, have no time to waste. Gotta have it right now. That was the only time they let him throw. Like, how many times did you see a gun run on 3rd and 6 and you're like, are you going for it on 4th down? Or like, is there a reason why you're running? And then they would run it on 3rd and 5 and then punt. And you're like, most teams in the league, if they run it on 3rd and 4 or 5 or 6, you're like, okay, they're going for it on 4th down. They're just trying to shorten the amount of yards that they need on 4th down. That's not how the Jets operate. And so that first drive, man, they were running it down the Dolphins' throat. I mean, absolutely putting their dick in the dirt. They were getting 5 and 6 and 7, and they couldn't stop them. And then Allen is going in for the touchdown, and he gets the ball poked free, a great strip of the football by Jack Jones. And that ball comes out as he's going in the end zone, and the Dolphins recover. And at that point, you knew that was their opportunity to set the tone, build some early momentum, and give themselves a fighting chance. They don't score there. The Dolphins kind of take control of the game from there. The Jets would never, ever see the light of day in terms of the game being tied or even the threat of the game being tied or them taking the lead. And so that was the turning point in the first game. Dolphins get their first victory of the season, 27-21. The big storyline leaving that game, Tyreek Hill, really gruesome, nasty injury. It's being reported that it's a dislocated kneecap. It looks like it's more than just that. I saw his leg bend in a direction that your leg is not supposed to bend in. So it snapped. It definitely broke. We'll talk about that a little bit later. In the nightcap, the turning point of the 28-3 shellacking at the hands of the Denver Broncos of the Cincinnati Bengals felt like the touchdown pass that was tossed right before the half. It's 14-3. You get a big interception with your second-round linebacker, Demetrius Knight, and that feels like a game-saving play, right? They don't get any points. You keep it at a 2-score game. Even if you can't score anything, at least they didn't score again, because you could tell this is going to be a night where it's going to be tough sledding for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I said during the skill game earlier in the afternoon that if you're Denver, your job is to not allow this to be close. You had 2 heartbreaking losses in a row. The thing that you couldn't allow is Cincinnati just to hang around. They're not good. They have Jake Browning at quarterback. They shouldn't be in the building with you. Your defense is good enough to absolutely stymie and stifle their offense with Jake Browning under center. Do that. Make sure the game's not close so you don't have to worry about any late game unraveling or heroics from the opposition. The Broncos, prior to this game, lost 2 games in walk-off field goal fashion, in which they did not trail in the fourth quarter of either of those 2 games until the walk-off field goal was made at the very end. So you didn't need to put yourself in that position, and they didn't. And that touchdown right before the half, after going down, being, essentially at the 1-2 yard line, not being able to get it in, throwing the interception, Cincinnati getting the ball, not being able to achieve a first down to even keep Denver away from being able to go back down there and score, to have the Broncos be able to go back down the field and essentially gut them with that touchdown toss to Cortland Sutton right before the half to make it 21-3. That felt like the dagger. Like, they're not scoring 22 points tonight, right? Cincinnati's not doing that. Unless somehow Denver implodes, turns it over. And these turnovers can't just be like, oh, man, Bo Nix threw a pick. It had to be Bo Nix threw a pick 6, or J.K. Dobbins put it on the carpet and it's a scoop and score. And they had to run back a punt for a touchdown, or they had to block a punt for a touchdown, or they had to run a kickoff back. Like, it had to be a set of circumstances that happened that allowed them to, get back into this game, score the points that they would need to win, because they weren't going to be able to do it on their own with the way their offense was functioning with Jake Browning under center and all the penalties that they had. My goodness, it's a lot of penalties for both teams in this game. But again, like Troy Aikman said, you're already at a massive deficit without Joe Burrow, and you can't afford to put Jake Browning in a position where, A, you already don't run the football all that well, B, you've got your team behind the sticks. Like, Jake Browning was throwing some dots early in this game, and one of them was called back due to a penalty. That was the theme of the night. Anytime they tried to get anything going, anytime they tried to get any kind of rhythm going, there was a penalty that would negate all of the work that they were putting in, put them behind the sticks, and they're just not in a position to overcome, a second and long, a third and long, being behind the sticks and being down in distances that aren't advantageous to being able to take pressure off of Jake Browning. Not to mention, he's not a very mobile quarterback, so he doesn't help you in that regard, where some quarterbacks may be able to offset the lack of a run game with, their legs and their ability to extend plays. So they were in a tough spot going into this game, and they didn't make it easy on themselves with all the mistakes that they made as they get dominated. They being the Cincinnati Bengals 28-3. Denver gets back to the win column, snaps the 2-game skid, now back to 500. Both teams in that game leave the game at 500 at 2-2 on the season. Feel like they're going in 2 totally opposite directions, however, as Cincinnati feels like they are going to end up being one of the worst teams in football without Joe Burrow. Meanwhile, the Broncos look to get back on track. They got a big one coming up against the Philadelphia Eagles in week number 5. Eagles, one of 2 undefeated teams. This was a good showing by Denver to gain that confidence that they're probably going to need to go on the road and get the upset over a very, very vulnerable Eagles football team. I believe, at least. We'll see. But I digress. Getting back to the first game of the night, Jets at Dolphins. Let's start with the winners, Miami Dolphins. They get the win 27-21. It was a typical Tua night, kind of just manage the game, don't turn it over. Don't think he threw for 200 yards in this game, but he made all the little throws that he needed to make, the little boots and things of that nature, found guys running open. I thought his best throw of the night was a really super impressive throw to the newest addition to this Dolphins offense, Darren Waller, who came out of retirement. If you remember, he had signed a contract. He had gotten traded to the Giants after signing a 3-year extension or deal with the Raiders, got traded to the Giants, spent 1 year there, and then he was like, I don't want to play football anymore. I want to rap. So he retired, came out of retirement, and he ended up in Miami. And so I think the Giants either released him or traded him to the Dolphins. I forget how he ended up there, but he ended up with the Dolphins. This was his first game, and he had an immediate impact with the Dolphins, catching the touchdown pass. I think his first catch was like a 14 or 17-yard catch on a third down where you go, okay, there goes Darren Waller. And then the touchdown grab was so impressive because Tua was under a little bit of duress. He put it on the top shelf where only Darren Waller could go get it. It was funny because Dan Orlovsky, who was calling the game along with Fowler and Louis Riddick, Orlovsky was like, this is a situation where you could go to Darren Waller. This is where his size, his height, it really can make a difference down in the red zone. And, I just thought Tua was throwing it out of the back of the end zone initially when he threw it because it looked like it was extremely high. But what he did was he put that thing in the only spot where his guy could get it. There were two, defenders converging on that football. It was just too high. It was top shelf. They couldn't go up there and get it. Waller could. That's a hell of a catch. Get both feet down back of the end zone. That's one of the better throws you'll see from Tua Tagovailoa. And that's a hell of a catch by Waller, making an impact in his first game as a Miami Dolphin. He would then later go on to score another touchdown, his second of the night. And so he paid off huge dividends in his first appearance as a Miami Dolphin. Meanwhile, Tyreek Hill, who was amped before the game, really looking forward to getting his guys going to try to get off the schneid and get their first win of the season. He got off to a fast start in this game. He had 6 catches at the time of his injury. So he was getting it, he was getting active tonight. And then the injury happened on a catch over by the sidelines. And he tries to plant to, stop his momentum. His leg locks, and then it turns in a way that it's not supposed to turn. And it was pretty nasty. To see him smiling after all of that was pretty cool because that had to be excruciating pain. And he knows his season is done. Who knows? His career could be done. I mean, that's a serious injury he suffered tonight. And he's getting older. He still was Cheetah, right? Like he's still one of the fastest receivers in the football. But he had already said that he was playing X amount of years and then he was going to retire. Maybe this might be, his way of just saying, all right, I'm done. But no one wants to go out this way. If you can avoid it, he'll probably try to make his way back and end on his terms. But that's a brutal injury for a team that already had started slow and, needed all hands on deck. You take away Tyreek Hill and you still got weapons, but Waddle by himself isn't as dynamic as the combination of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So going to be interesting to see if the Dolphins can somehow make this work moving forward. But that's a massive loss for a team that was looking to try to get back on track. But they do get the win tonight. Devin Achane is such a monster. He was really good tonight. They utilize Washington well. I like how they use Ollie Gordon as well. And you can see he's going to be a big part of their offense moving forward. But the story of the night was their defense played really well, right? This is a defense that hadn't been really good to start the season off. They had been getting gashed both in the run game and in the pass game. And they stepped up tonight. And again, this was a Jets team that we knew wanted to run the football going in. We talked about it. And I thought it started off a little rough for this Dolphins defense on the ground. That first possession, they were getting gutted on the ground. But they stood their ground. They forced the turnover. And then after that, they kind of buckled down against the run. Sans for stopping Justin Fields. Obviously, he had the big 43-yard run on a 4th and 1 where you just go, wow. But that's what Justin Fields can do with his legs. But they made sure they didn't give up anything deep vertically to the Jets. They didn't let anybody get free, missed tackles or anything of the sort. They got after Fields. They made him uncomfortable. They made him check it down. And they did a really good job of blitzing, but playing zone behind it, which confused Fields and made him uncomfortable. And so they were able to get a stop on a 4th down, force a fumble, recover that. So the first 2 Jet possessions were actually really positive drives that saw them move the football with some real promise. And both of those drives ended in fumbles. So credit the Dolphins defense for standing tall, bending, but never breaking in those instances, and allowing themselves to, get a lead and get comfortable, something they haven't been able to do all season long. And so this was a good thing for them, because they were lacking the confidence that they needed to be able to just put the Jets away. They never fully put them away in this game until late. But they had opportunities to really bury them, and they couldn't do it. And so you can see that they still got a ways to go, but it was good to get the first win of the season if you are the Miami Dolphins. Meanwhile, for the Jets, one of the reoccurring themes when I watch football, I've been doing this for a pretty long time, and one of the reoccurring themes with bad teams is they often beat themselves. And it's as old as time, right? Bad teams show you why they're bad. And again, I always say that a lot of times with bad teams, you just got to move out of the way and let them be bad. They'll do the work for you. Don't get in the way. Don't try to be special. Just get out of the way, and bad teams are going to bad. And we kind of saw that with Cincinnati, even though they're 2-2, but you could see where they're heading. But you definitely saw it with the Jets. They couldn't get out of their own way. Now, I did think that the officiating was not equal. There were often instances where something happened to them and it wasn't called, but the minute they did something, it felt like it was getting called. For instance, there was a play where they called the Jets for holding, but on the same play, anytime a offensive lineman's lid, or defensive lineman for that matter, anytime somebody's lid ends up on the ground, 9 times out of 10, there's a hands to the face that occurred. You can't just assume if you didn't see it, you can't throw the flag. But I mean, that was as obvious with Tippmann's helmet being on the ground. I'm thinking, okay, it's hands to the face on the Dolphins. They call holding on the Jets, and you're like, okay, where's the offsetting penalty? Because clearly Tippmann's helmet got knocked off and somebody put their hands to his face. And sure enough, you see the replay, and that happened. They didn't call it. Then you had a play right before the 2-minute warning where a Jet tight end catches, I want to say it was Ruckert, catches the ball. He dives forward. He's down. He's been down. And here comes a Dolphin defender from like 10 yards off the pace, and he plops down on him, right? He's like, what the hell, bro? That's like, you've been calling all these penalties on the Jets all night, and this guy comes out of nowhere and plops down on the tight end who's already on the ground, and you don't throw the flag. And so, yeah, it wasn't officiated, the same on both sides, but the Jets definitely had a bunch of infractions that set them back in this game. They made mistakes that hurt them, obviously, with the fumbles, as I mentioned, but those penalties, they killed drives. There were times where the Jets were trying to build something, trying to get down the field, and then next thing you know, you look up, it's 1st and 25. And you're like, damn, well, that killed that drive, because Justin Fields isn't, he's not throwing a 13-yard completion on 1st and 25. He's going to drop back and check it down, and it's going to be a 4-yard completion, and he's going to drop back and check it down again, and it's going to be a 6-yard completion. It's going to be 3rd and 15. And on 3rd and 15, he's going to drop back, and he's going to check it down again, right? Or he's going to try to force it to Garrett Wilson, or he's going to check it down to the rookie tight end, Taylor, and they're going to punt. So, you can't get behind the sticks when your offense isn't dynamic and explosive. And that's just not what the Jets are. So, it's just amazing to watch bad teams be bad. because you understand very quickly how they get to 0-4 or 1-3 when you see it. And for the Jets, it's the penalties. They can't get out of their own way. Offensively, I talked about it. It's a pretty pedestrian offense that they run with Justin Fields. They don't stretch the football field vertically. They don't apply pressure to you down the field. It feels like they've got 2 guys you can throw the ball to, 3 if you add in Breece Hall. But, Garrett Wilson at receiver and Mason Taylor at tight end, it feels like that's all they have to throw the football to. It feels like a very basic offense with no real wrinkles or anything that scares you other than Justin Fields' legs. I mean, if you don't double team Garrett Wilson, then you don't get it, right? Like, he can't hurt you. Let it be someone else. It can't be Garrett Wilson. And so their offense is pedestrian. Their defense, for as much talent as it feels like they're supposed to have, it feels like it underachieves on a weekly basis. Not having Williams at linebacker hurts because he's such a demon on defense. And him being out really hurt their run defense because they're really usually good against the run. They were not good against the run tonight in particular. And Quincy Williams is one of the anchors of that run defense. He flies around. He hits anything that moves. He's so fast and dynamic, sideline to sideline. They really missed him tonight. But ultimately, they just didn't do enough right tonight. And I don't know when they're going to win a game, to be honest with you. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Dallas this week, to be honest with you, but because Dallas is so bad defensively. But this feels like a week where Dallas can get their defensive woes together, maybe build some confidence. We know Dallas can score, and I don't think the Jets are disruptive enough on the defensive side of football to fluster Dak into making mistakes. This feels like one of those games where they should be able to, reestablish their defense, win a game, and feel good about themselves if you're Dallas. I don't know when the Jets win a game, honestly. I don't think it's next week against Dallas. I wouldn't be shocked if it was against the Cowboys, but they're not disciplined enough. They make too many mistakes. Their offense is too basic. You rely too heavily on Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Mason Taylor. Like, you just rely on 3 guys essentially in your quarterback running the football, and Justin Fields. Like, there's no diversity to the offense. It's a tough go. It's a tough go. It's a tough ask. So that's the Jets. You go to the nightcap real quick. I felt like the Broncos were going to do exactly what they did tonight. I thought that they could really get after the Cincinnati Bengals defense and really do whatever it is they wanted to do. I thought they could run the ball tonight. I thought they could throw the ball with great efficiency tonight. I thought they would score some points, which they did. I thought their defense was going to do exactly what they did, which was shut down Jake Browning. I thought they could dominate tonight, get a feel good, get right type of game at home. They unveiled a new, color combination with the midnight blue helmet. And so they usually, when they wear all blue, they wear the white helmets. They didn't do that tonight. They wore the blue helmets with it. So, new combination at home, primetime lights. I just felt like they were going to dominate, and they did. So shout out to the Broncos for getting back in the win column, doing what they needed to do. And this is the kind of win they needed before taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a short week for them, quick turnaround on the road, so it's not an advantageous setup for them, but they've got the kind of defense that could pose problems for the Eagles next week. The offense is going to be the question because this Eagles defense forces turnovers, and Bo Nix, while he can be dynamic at the quarterback position, can also turn it over, as we saw tonight. But that was a 4th down. You really don't mind that one, but still, you can get Bo to make a mistake or two. So we'll see. That's going to be a fun game on Sunday. But they took care of business, did what they needed to do. I thought one of the biggest things they did tonight was they got RJ Harvey going. I think he could be an X factor on the offensive side of football. They got a ton of speed, a bunch of guys that can do an assortment of things. But RJ Harvey gives them a little bit something different out of the backfield as a pass catcher with his speed. And if they can get him going, if they can start to really work him into this offensive flow and rhythm, he could be one of the guys that sort of like a Bucky Irving in this, even more dynamic than Bucky Irving, right? So I think he has a chance to really be a dynamic player for them. He's not Alvin Kamara, but he could be what Alvin Kamara was for Sean Payton in New Orleans. He could be that kind of guy because of his pass catching ability. And, he has speed. He showed a little bit of contact balance tonight, which we did see some of at UCF. So I thought this was by far and away his most impressive performance in his young NFL season. And if he can start to do that, it just opens up another dimension of this offense and kind of unlocks a lot of things that Sean Payton probably wants to get to if he can start to play at that level, because he could have really did some damage. There was a play kind of up the seam on the left side where, Bo might have put it out just a little bit too far out in front of him. Aikman said he might have throttled down a little bit. I don't know who was to blame as to why that hookup didn't, come together. But if he catches that, that's a touchdown. It's probably like a 55-yard touchdown with his speed. So you saw his effectiveness as a pass catcher tonight. You saw his effectiveness as a runner. That was pretty, nice to see if you're a Broncos fan. Cortland Sutton did his thing. Franklin did his thing. They missed on the hookup down the field. That would have been a massive play. But ultimately, Bo Nix, 2 third-down touchdown passes, and then a 3rd-down touchdown run in this game. Kind of got back on track. It was his first 300-yard game of the season. Came into this game averaging less than 180 pass yards per game. So kind of got off the schneid tonight. Got a 300-yard passing game under his belt, got a little bit of momentum. The defense was swarming. They made Jake Browning uncomfortable. They did not allow Chase Brown to give him an outlet and become sort of didn't allow Jake Browning to lean on the run game and be a crutch for, a struggling pass offense without Joe Burrow. They didn't, and they got the corners out there. They try to, teams try to go after Riley Moss. Yeah, he's a white corner and he's opposite of PS2. So it's easy to just say we're gonna target the white boy. But Riley Moss don't be going for that shit. And they went at him early, got a completion to T. Higgins. After that, he shut shit down. And so they blanketed the receivers, made it tough for Jake to go anywhere with the football. They shut down the run game, got after him, started to sack him. He started getting happy feet, running out of the pocket, throwing the ball away. And so mission accomplished. You give up 3 whole points. That's the Denver Broncos defense we've come to know and love. We know they're capable. They showcased that tonight. And now we're going to see if they can take their talents on the road to the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles and do something that most people won't think they can do. Something that they did a season ago. Remember when they went to Tampa as a winless team last year on the road and defeated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Can they do something similar here against Philadelphia? We'll see. But this was a big confidence builder. They needed a win. They needed a get-right game. They got it, and they took advantage of it. Good for them. On the other side, for Cincinnati, this is a really tough deal for their head coach, Zach Taylor, because he did so much this offseason to avoid the slow start, right? They had every year they were starting 0-2, 0-3, 1-4, that type of stuff, trying to dig themselves out of a hole after starting slow. And so this year he dedicated, he changed the way they were approaching the start of the season. They played in every preseason game just about. They left the starters out there. They even had Joe Burrow out there with non-starters at one point just so he could get some reps with those guys in the event that, injuries and things of that nature took place. And they came out the gate swinging. They got an ugly win in week 1 against Cleveland, but a win nonetheless on the road, a place that had been a house of horrors for them really up until last year. Burrow and Chase and company got their first win on the road at Cleveland. So that was a place that had always been tough for them to win. They won there again this year to start the season off. Then week 2, they were able to find a way to beat Jacksonville despite Joe Burrow going down in that game. Browning came in and kind of saved the day. And so they would start off the season 2-0, but it's been all downhill since then. It's been disastrous. And they've played some really good defensive teams, and they just haven't been able to get going. Last week against Minnesota, all of the turnovers that took place, and that thing just got out of control, spiraled out of control very quickly. And then this week, you try to get off to a fast start. You score on the opening drive. You're thinking, okay, maybe they got a little something. Brown is taking shot after shot after shot down the field. He's throwing it to Chase. He's throwing it to T. Higgins. And it's like, hey, he's giving them a shot too, right? And then all of a sudden they shut that faucet off. They got after him, and they don't seem to have an answer for Jake Browning when things start to break down, when T. Higgins and Jamar Chase aren't open, you can't get them the ball. He doesn't seem to have another outlet. He doesn't seem to have an answer. You can't lean on the run game. They're going to have to figure it out. We already know this isn't a good defense. It's still a bad defense. It was bad last year. It's still bad this year. They don't have the best offensive line. They're committing too many mistakes and penalties. Last week, it was the turnovers. This week, it was the penalties. You're not good enough without Joe Burrow to make mistakes. You damn near have to be perfect. And to see the amount of mistakes that are being made, it's tough, because what is Zach Taylor to do in this situation? I mean, theoretically speaking, you'll hear people say, well, they need to trade for a quarterback. But what are you really going to do without Joe Burrow? This roster was basically set up for Joe Burrow to carry you where you needed to go. So you bring another quarterback in here, and even if he's really solid for you, it's not going to be enough with a bad defense, next to no run game, and a team that doesn't have a really good offensive line and isn't disciplined from a penalty standpoint. It's tough to overcome that. You're going to need special teams to chime in and chip in. You're going to need the defense to create turnovers, which they really don't. And so it's just a tough ask for this Bengals team to keep it afloat without Joe Burrow. And like I said earlier, feels like two teams going in totally opposite directions. The Broncos' arrow is pointing upward. They easily could be undefeated, because the Denver Broncos. They could easily be 4-0 right now. They could easily be 4-0, 3-1, but they're 2-2. But the arrow is after starting 2-0, dropping your last two, and in blowout fashion, they outscored I think it was 44-13 last week against Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe that was the Saints and Seahawks score. What was the score in the game? Let me look it up. Let me see what it was. It was 28-3 tonight, and it was 48-10. I gave them 3 more points. So they've been outscored 76-13 in the last 2 weeks. Ouch. 76-13 in the last 2 weeks. And if you toss in the Jaguars game from week 2, you've given up over 100 points in the last 3 weeks combined. So this is still a really bad Bengals defense still. You were going to try to mask some of that with Joe Burrow's greatness, and you were hoping to minimize the defense's involvement, be a little bit better, not a ton better, but minimize their impact by having Joe Burrow be the man. Now that he's not there, this is, as a Commanders fan, you've kind of seen that. Like when you've got one of them ones, they mask a lot of team deficiencies, right? You strip the team down of their elite quarterback, and you see the team for what it really is. And unfortunately, this is why it's important that you try to build a real team around your quarterback. It gets harder to do that when that quarterback is getting paid, but you can do that. Like the Buffalo Bills have done that. Like the Ravens have done that. But you have to draft well, and you got to figure out which guys to pay, which guys to let walk. You got to bring in the right free agents. You got to pick your spots. They just haven't done. And to me, like, I know Burrow wanted to keep his crew around, but they weren't in a position where they could afford to keep both of those receivers and Burrow, pay him what he's being paid. They've invested way too much on the offense, not enough on the defense, and it shows. It shows. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to this skill game brought to you by Sleeper. We will get into my picks from tonight, and then we will come back on the other side and get to the comment section. Let's get to the skill game brought to you by Sleeper.
The skill game brought to you by Sleeper.
All right, so Sleeper is a fantasy sports and real money gaming app that focuses on bringing people together through sports and gaming. I love this app because it has enhanced my sports watching experience. I can only imagine how it might get when NBA season starts, and that's right around the corner, because it's going to be so easy to just get up here, points, rebounds, assists, that kind of thing. But I'm an NFL guy. Y'all know that. And so this app is so awesome. I talk to you guys all the time about it. And, you know, I'm starting to really be excited because people keep sending me the picks that I'm doing, like minus one or two things. And they're doing it the right way because they're taking out the dumb shit that I do, because I always lose by like one thing. So they take out the one thing that I'm going to lose with, and they keep all the rest of those picks. They may add in something else, and they're like, yo, we hit. And I'm like, no, you hit. I lost. I did some dumb shit. You didn't. You took all the good picks that I gave out and got rid of the dumb shit. So shout out to everybody that's eating off of these picks, man. That's what it's all about. I always tell y'all, let's get this money together. All right. So shout out to everybody. Somebody sent me another one tonight off this Broncos game. They did all the things that I said except for Bo Nix, which I fumbled that one. I'm going to talk about that here in a second. So shout out to everyone that's winning. Somebody last night, two people last night sent me the Cowboys one, and they had won off of that one as well. So shout out to everybody that's eating off of these picks, man. I love it. That's what it's all about, man. Everybody eats, B. Everybody eats with the Sleeper app. If you don't have this app, what are you waiting on? Go in the description of this or any other video that I do. You'll find a link that will allow you to download this Sleeper app. If you already have the Sleeper app, then you're ahead of the game. All you have to do is then use my promo code LTN to get you 100% match on a deposit up to $100. That's right, $1 for dollar deposit match. You put in 50, they'll give you an additional 50. You put in 100, they'll give you an additional 100 to use on this app. And as I've said many a times, it doesn't take much to win you some bucks on this app. So let's look at my picks. Didn't get it done again, but I will tell you, I've learned so much in this first month. As far as picks are concerned, I've done a lot of things wrong, but I've done way more right than I have wrong. But it doesn't take much. All you gotta do is one thing wrong, and your whole sheet is rendered irrelevant. So here was the Broncos game, right? So somebody said, hey, we hit, because they did all of these four. They didn't do the Bo Nix. They did all these four. And sometimes, I told y'all this before, but sometimes I can be the smartest guy in the room, or I think I am. And I'll outsmart myself. And that's what I did with this Broncos game. So I didn't even really pay attention to remember I told y'all earlier in the skill game, I was like, I don't love my jet picks. Like, the jet picks are trash. I just picked some stuff and I moved on. I probably could have given it a little bit more thought, but I really didn't pay. And I knew I didn't hit because I had Achane, and again, being the smartest guy in the room, I had already said during the skill game, I should just take Achane anytime touchdown. Like him and Bijan, and there's certain running backs where you're just like, they're gonna score, bro. If that team's gonna win and you think they're gonna win, they can't win. The Dolphins can't win without Devin Achane touching pay dirt. The Falcons can't win without Bijan Robinson touching the end zone, right? It's just certain guys where you're like, if that team's gonna win, this guy's got to score. And I knew that tonight. And I still winning, but we'll talk about that when we get to that game. So with the Broncos, I really was invested in these picks here because I was like, this is going to be a big night for the Broncos offense. J.K. Dobbins is going to be able to run the football because they're going to be ahead. So they're going to feed him. So he's going to have some yards tonight. I said that Harvey, this is the night where they figure out what Harvey can be in this offense. So I knew he was going to, get some yards. I said Chase Brown, because of the pressure that I believe the Broncos defense is going to apply to Jake Browning, they're going to be looking for screens, check downs to Chase Brown. He's not usually a big receiving yards guy, but I said when there's a lot of pressure, if I'm a quarterback, first thing I'm looking for is my outlet. Where's my running back? Let me get it out of my hands. And if you end up in 2nd and 17 or 3rd and 14, what you going to do? Throw a screen. Chase Brown is usually going to be the recipient of that. So I felt good about Dobbins, 65.5 rush yards. He had 101 yards. The first time a Broncos runner has had 100 yards since Sean Payton has been the head coach of the Broncos. R.J. Harvey, 9.5 receiving yards. He ended up with 40. I told you he could have had about 110 had he caught that one pass up the seam. So that was the winner there. Chase Brown was my lone Cincinnati back. I told you I need to stay away from Cincinnati. There wasn't much going to come good of that. What I should have done if I was thinking, and I wasn't, I should have looked at whatever Jake Brown's passing yards were and just take the under. Like, if they set it at 185, he wasn't getting there. Not against this defense. But anyway, I took Chase Brown on the receiving yards, 19.5. He had 31 yards receiving, so he hit that. Troy Franklin, I said, this is gonna be a good night for those other guys. I remember I was even floating around the idea of Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims had a pretty good night tonight, so you would have hit the over the more on his number had you gone with him, and I gave you that one as well tonight. But I said I'm gonna take Troy Franklin. That's Bo Nix's guy. When he usually takes shots deep, it's usually to Troy Franklin because of that Oregon connection that they have. He took a shot to him deep, and it should have been caught. Bo could have made a better throw, but it also was there and should have been caught. But nonetheless, Troy Franklin, 44.5, ended up with 55 yards. But then here's me outsmarting myself. This is the dumb shit I do. This is why I haven't won in a while. Bo Nix. If you're telling yourself, and I said this, if you're telling yourself Bo Nix is going to have a big night, the Broncos offense is going to have a big night, and I'm telling you that this guy's going to have this many yards receiving, this guy, if I'm saying all of this, why not just go Bo Nix passing yards? Like, why are you making this? They even tried to coax me. 1.5 touchdown passes was the multiplier that they had a boost on, and I looked at it for a second. I was like, nah, I'm going to leave that alone. And he ended up having like 3 touchdown passes. Now, how many passes? 2 touchdown passes. So it would have been a hit, right? But of course, I was like, oh, the 22.5 rush yards. Bo Nix is going to do that easy. Why would he need to run against this Cincinnati Bengals defense? Who's flushing him out of the pocket? If it's not Trey Hendrickson, who's making him leave the pocket? What's the reason he needs to run? And so I felt good early on when he had the touchdown run. I'm like, yeah, he's going to get this 22 yards. He's going to get these 23 yards. And then he really didn't run the rest of the night. He had one, I think, like read option keep that went nowhere. And then I was like, uh-oh, this is the one that's going to stop me. But that's my fault. That's nobody's fault but my own. But here's what I've learned in my first month doing this. And it's going to be a lot. I'm going to win a lot of money in October. Watch what I say. Mark my words. What I've learned is trust your gut on touchdowns. Like, because I run from touchdowns. I'm scared of touchdowns. But don't run from touchdowns. Embrace them. If you know what you know, don't be afraid, right? Even and I've run away from less. Don't run away from less either. That's a thing too. Like, I knew Jake Browning, whatever the pass yards were for Jake Browning tonight, I knew he wasn't going to hit it. I should have went less there, right? I had options. And so what I've got to do now is I've got to take the 5 best options, not just this could happen. I could see, or sometimes I get kind of lulled into, oh, this multiplier is really juicy. F that. Chasing a multiplier, like now, look, if all things are equal and one multiplier is higher, give me the higher multiplier. But if I believe in the thing the same, but ultimately, don't go chasing after a slightly higher multiplier at the expense of the rest of your ticket, right? Like I've done that so many times where I'm like, oh, this is a little bit higher than Bo Nix passing yards. Or you know what got me tonight? They had a special on Bo Nix, and I was like, oh, but now I can't bet $15. It'll only be $10, right? And so I was like, nah, I'm gonna just stick with the rushing yards. He's gonna get that, and he did. So I got a really good handle on this now. So shout out to the person that won, that had Dobbins, Harvey, Brown, and Franklin. Shout out to you. I didn't get it done, and so another missed opportunity, but it is what it is. I learned a lot this month. So next game is a new month, and I'm gonna hit the ground running in October. So this one here, I told you I didn't love this. The only thing that I could tell you about this game, and I said this earlier, is the Jets are going to run the ball. The Jets are going to run the ball. And I said Fields is going to eclipse 48 yards rushing, and Breece Hall is going to – remember, the Breece Hall number was at 58.5 or 50, 6.5, and I upped it to 70 because I'm like, he's going to run the ball. And this Dolphins defense doesn't stop the run all that great. He's going to eclipse 70 yards. So I said, put your money where your mouth is. I upped the Breece Hall rush yards. I took Justin Fields. I could have easily upped his rush yards, but I didn't want to be greedy, right? He had the big run. Otherwise, he would not have had this many yards. Waddle, that one hurt me because I just knew Waddle was going to get 5 catches. And Tua, he screwed me on one time. He was in the flats, wide ass open, but he was thrown across his body and he skipped the ball. That's that Tua shit where he doesn't have the arm strength, can't throw across his body. And so that was a miscompletion. And then I got to credit the Jets. They were really covering him, and they allowed Tyreek Hill to be wide ass open, and they were covering Waddle early in this game. And that's how Tyreek got all the catches. There were a couple of other opportunities for him to catch a couple passes. Tua screwed me on one, and then the Jets had really good defense on the other two. But nonetheless, I fell short. I just needed 2 more catches. And I feel like if Tua completes the one in the flats, he's going to get 1 more catch. But ultimately, the Jets screwed me because their lack of ability to score and put game pressure on the Dolphins allowed them to just pretty much take the air out of the football and just turn around and hand it off. And so they hurt me in both the HM receiving yards department, and they hurt me in the Waddle catches. Because if I'm having success on the ground, and another thing that I failed to think about was Quincy Williams' absence and what that would mean for the Dolphins' ability to run the football. Had I thought about that, you know what I would have done? Because remember, I looked at Devin Achan's combined rush and receiving, and let's see what he had. Because he had 20 and 99. The combined rush and receiving was 99.5. He had 99 yards rushing and 2 yards receiving. He would have gotten that, right? So now that I think about it, and I looked at it, and I looked at it for like 30 seconds, and I was like, nah, I'm not. That's too high, right? Because I said the Jets' run defense is really good. Well, it's really good with Quincy Williams. You take him out of the mix, and it's a very ordinary rush defense. So Achan killed him on the ground, and I also have to make sure I'm taking into consideration what guys are and aren't available, because that makes a difference. And tonight's game was really big on that. And so, yeah, the Jets' inability to keep the game close enough to force the Dolphins to throw really hurt me late. I needed these stats to be achieved early when the game was still kind of in the balance, because as the Jets continue to show their inability on offense and the Dolphins continue to widen the gap from a score perspective, it gave them the comfort of knowing we can just run the ball. We don't need to throw it. We don't need to put it in harm's way. Let's just run the football, and we should be fine. And that hurt me because I needed the ball to be thrown not the ball to be run. So that was the first game, but the nightcap was the one that got away from me. That Bo Nix rushing, that's on me. That was my fault. So shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring this stream. And once again, if you see what we're doing here, come on now. Like, let's get this money. Come on, let's get this money. No, I don't want to give you my lunch money. Come on. Let's get this money, man. All right. Use my promo code LTN to get you a 100% match on the deposit up to $100. You know what it is. You know how we get down. You see the money here to be made. Let's do it. That was the skill game brought to you by Sleeper. Let's get to the comment section.
Sleeper. The skill game brought to you by Sleeper.
All right. So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say. Ethan Dykes, my guy. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, just got home and saw the Tyreek injury. Good God. Yeah, it was pretty gruesome. My wife, she does not like seeing injuries. She can't stand them. So I'm like, yo, Tyreek got hurt. She sees the card out there and everybody like taking a knee or whatever. And she's like, that's Tyreek? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. And so the injury happens, like they're showing a replay. They said after they came back from break, we're only going to show it once. And so they show the replay and I'm like, oh my God. And my wife was like, oh, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. She does not like to see injuries. She's like, so she won't look up. I'm like, they're not going to show it again. They said they were only going to show it once. It was pretty gruesome though. Like you saw his leg bend in a way that it's not supposed to. Man, football is a very dangerous and violent sport. My gosh. He said, Injury Reaper is on demon time this year, Louie. He said, it ain't safe in these streets this year for nobody. My wife said the exact same thing. Like, you think about all the big time names of players who are done for the year, and it is crazy this season. Again, I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment and be like, well, this is the most injuries we've seen to big name players ever, because I'm pretty sure there was a year where just as many, if not more, big name players had season-ending injuries. But I mean, in the first month of the season, we're not in October yet. And in this first month of the season, we've already seen Joe Burrow go down for basically the season. Lamar Jackson is now injured, and we don't know the extent of his injury, but they're off to a 1-3 start. And half of their squad is injured. Roquan Smith got injured. Ronnie Stanley got injured in that game. The Nate Wiggins, the corner, got injured for Baltimore in that game. We've seen Malik Neighbors go down for the season, right? We've seen now Tyreek Hill go down for the season. Austin Eckler, and I know he's not on the same level as the names that I've just mentioned, but he was a big part of what we were trying to do this year. He's done for the season. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's out, right? Like, he's not on IR, so apparently the Cowboys don't think it's serious enough to put him on IR where he has to miss 4 games. But I mean, CeeDee Lamb's been pretty much an Iron Man for the Cowboys. He hasn't missed really any games. He's out. Terry McLaurin is out right now. And so when you see all the guys that have gotten injured, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing a few names of guys who are massive contributors to their teams, who are big names in the NFL, who are injured right now. It's crazy. So it's just been one of those years. Bosa, I forgot about Nick Bosa, done for the year already, right? Like, there've been so many guys that have gone down in this young NFL season. It is crazy. So like you said, it ain't safe out here in these streets. It ain't safe. It ain't safe. It ain't safe. It ain't safe. So protect your stuff. Watch out. Mind your P's and Q's, Y's and Z's. It's real nasty out here, man. Thomas Arrington, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, my guy. Thomas Arrington writes, sup, Lou? Damn, you almost had your sleeper tonight. Bo did you dirty. He did. That was my fault. I'm not even putting that on Bo. I knew better. I should have known better. All right. have another 5 spot for you. He said, FYI, I'm stacking dubs over here. Check weekly pick'em pool. Uh-oh. All right, I'm gonna have to look at it. Yeah, I'm so upset. I was supposed to win that. I was supposed to win that Broncos game. My bet tonight. Look, I'm over here in my mind. I haven't given up on the winners and losers, but I'm so focused on the survivor pool right now. I'm so down bad. Like I'm like my focus is switched to like just don't get the piss cup. That's like I've never been in that frame of mind. Like my confidence is so down over there right now that I've really focused all my energy. I've never won the survivor pool, and that is where all of my focus is right now. Like find a way to survive to the next week. And I did that. And so this was a tough week for me because I told you guys, and I'm gonna stop giving y'all the secret sauce, but I told y'all don't mess around with them damn Giants and Chargers. I said, don't go messing around with the unknown. Stick with the things that you know. I'm gonna stop giving y'all gems, man. I'm gonna stop giving y'all these damn gems. And so I probably stopped 1 or 2 people from picking the damn Chargers that should have picked the Chargers and gotten eliminated. But nonetheless, I think we got a few people touched this past week. So I just gotta keep bobbing and weaving, dipping and dodging, right? Occasionally throw the jab. But get out of there, man. I can't stay in there. Just throw the jab and get out of there, right? So I'm feeling good. But you sound like you won the weekly pick'em pool, man. If you did, you on a hell of a heater. All right. You on a hell of a heater. My guy, TA, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I believe in Sleeper Lou. I believe in Sleeper Lou too. That makes 2 of us. I don't know if there's many others that believe in Sleeper Lou. But I believe in Sleeper Lou as well. So I appreciate you for believing in me. I believe in me too. And look, apparently there are others out there that believe in me as well because they're making money off of these picks that I'm giving out. And so I am taking a little bit of solace in knowing that people are sending me like, yo, we hit tonight. And I'm like, yeah, you hit tonight. I didn't hit shit. But then I look at the sheet and I'm like, well, these are all my picks. Basically, you just took out the one dud that cost me from hitting. So congratulations to you. So that's 3 primetime games in a row, right? Take out the Dolphins one. So this Denver one, the Dallas one, and the Thursday night game before that, the Arizona, I had somebody send me messages like, yo, I hit, bro. Appreciate you. And you know, I remember I missed out on one on the Cardinals. I missed out on one on the Ravens on Monday night. Somebody sent me one for that. So I'm going all the way back to last Monday because I had one. I had the DeAndre Hopkins, needed one more catch on Monday night. I needed it was what did I need on Thursday night? It was one thing that I didn't get that I needed. I think both field goal kickers ended up kicking field goals. I got screwed on the touchdown. That's right. Your boy Kenneth Walker got taken out of the game for the 15-yard penalty. So they gave it to Charbonnet, and that's all I needed was the touchdown. If he would have scored that touchdown instead of Charbonnet, which he should have, I would have won that one. And then Sunday night, I had everything except the kicker, right? I was like, who knew that this was going to turn into a damn shootout and that the kicker wouldn't kick, the Cowboys kicker wouldn't kick 2 field goals, right? That's what got me in that one. He kicked 1, not 2. And then, and Golden didn't score a touchdown last night either. So those were the 2 that got me last night. And then tonight, Bo Nix, 22.5 rush yards. So I got this shit. Now it's just about understanding where to go, right? Take out the one bad, enter in the one that you need. Or sometimes less is more, right? Maybe you don't need that 5th or that 6th pick. Maybe it just needs to be 5. Maybe it just needs to be 4. I got this shit, though. I'm glad you believe because I believe, too. It's about to Sleep about to hate me because I'm about to be making this money. in October. They're like, God damn, he won again. God damn, he won again. God damn, he won again. Yeah, I won again. Hey, shout out to my guy TA, man. All right, let's go to the comment section real quick. Let's see. Sheree, do you think the Broncos reach 10 wins again? I'd have to look at their schedule. Well, let's just look at it then. Let's just see what it looks like. So they got a tough one against the Eagles. I think they can go in there and win, but that's a tough one. We're just going to assume they lose that game. Then they have the Jets. They should win that game. Then they have the Giants. They should win that game. Then they have the Cowboys. That's going to be an interesting one. We'll see what the Cowboys are by the time we get to that game. So right now they have 4 wins if you don't count the Eagles game. They beat the Jets. They beat the Giants. They can beat the Cowboys. We'll count that as a win, even though they could lose that game. But you said, could they get to win? 10 wins. We're just trying to find a path to 10. Beating the Cowboys, 5. Texans, that's going to be interesting. We'll see what the Texans are by the time we get to like week 10, which is somewhere in that neighborhood at the beginning of November. That's probably week 9, right? 4 weeks in October get you to week 9. We'll see what the Texans are. Like, they just beat up on a hapless Tennessee team. So I'm still not convinced that they're fixed. They should be able to beat the Raiders at home. It's family business, though. That will give you 6 wins. They've given the Chiefs all they can handle over the last couple of years, especially last year, even though they didn't beat them. They gave them everything they could handle, and they beat them the year before that. So anything could happen there. Let's just assume they split with the Chiefs, win one of those 2 games. That'll get them to 7. They got the Raiders again. They should sweep the Raiders, really, honestly. That'll get you to 8. Then they have the Packers at home. That'll be an interesting one. Jags at home. That'll be an interesting one. We'll see what Jacksonville does. Let's say you beat Jacksonville at home. That'll get you to 9. And then you get the Chargers at home. Who knows if the Chargers need that game or not? Week 18. Who knows if you need that game? You probably will. That's how you get to 10 wins. I could definitely see them getting to 10 wins this season. Without question, they're good enough to get to 10 wins. Sheree also asks, how would you rank the 3 remaining 0-4 teams? I don't actually know. Let's figure out who the 4 0-4 teams are. So you have the Jets, you have the Titans, and now I got to go through all of the divisions and figure out who the last one is. Let's start in the AFC because I think it's probably over there, right? So AFC East, Jets, everybody else has won in that division. Now that the Dolphins won. AFC North, everybody's won at least a game in that division. AFC South, Titans, I already mentioned them. Everybody else has won in that division. AFC West, everybody's won in that division. So you go to the NFC. So I guess it's an NFC team. NFC East, everybody's won in that division. NFC South, everybody's won in that. The Saints. There we go. Saints are the other team. So I would say of those, the team that is the closest to winning a game is the Saints. They went to Buffalo, and they were hanging in that game for as long as an 0-4 team could hang in. So I would say the Saints are the closest, because here's the thing. Of those 3 teams, they actually have the most competent quarterbacking right now. The Saints don't stink because of Spencer Rattler. He's actually playing well. They stink because everything else around him stinks. Okay, if that makes sense. So that is the problem right now. So with the other 2 teams, you got a rookie in Cam Ward. He's struggling like rookies typically do, especially when there's not a lot of talent around them. And then, the Jets, we watched the offense tonight. I've been telling you what this offense is. It stinks. So I'd say the Saints, then the Jets, and then the Titans. The Titans don't really have anything they can hang their hat on. 1 week, the defense is giving them a shot like it did yesterday. And then 1 week, the defense is getting absolutely obliterate it like it did 2 weeks ago against Indianapolis. You just don't know what Tennessee Titans team is going to show up. But they can't score no matter what happens. Whether the defense shows up and gives them a chance like they did yesterday, that was a 3-0 game, 6-0 game for the longest time. And then, wheels fell off and they lose 26-0. Like, they can't score. So they're last because they can't score. John Wynn says seeing Russell Wilson about to be traded from the Giants uniform makes me so sad right now. Like, please stop playing football and retire. And he's not ready to give it up. It's unfortunate for him because they were talking about him. And we had this same discussion on the podcast probably about a year ago, maybe now, when he was in Denver still. And we talked about, is Russell Wilson playing his way out of the Hall of Fame? And you could make the case that before he left Seattle, he was a surefire Hall of Famer. With what he's done since he's left, he has played his way out of the Hall of Fame, which is crazy to say. That generally doesn't happen, but it's just gone sideways for him. John Wynn says, I just saw your video from last night. Why would people have to draft the kicker where they can be causing 40-yard penalties on short kicks in the landing zone? I don't understand this. Well, you don't, like, kickers aren't purposefully not trying to kick it into the landing zone. It just happens. They're trying all these weird kicks. I remember 2 weeks ago watching the Eagles and the Rams, and the Rams kicker, Joshua Carty, was killing the Eagles with these sidewinder kicks that were landing and they were bouncing weird, and the Eagles returners were having trouble, fielding it, and they were having to field it in the field of play, and they were stopping them inside the 10 like the entire second half. They were struggling with these kicks. And then I forgot what game I was watching yesterday, but the kicker was doing that same thing, kind of, kicking it weird. It was spinning sideways, and guys were having trouble. So these dirty kicks, as they like to call them, that land in the landing zone, but it's not being caught. That's what these kickers are trying to do. And sometimes when you're kicking it in that fashion, it has this downward trajectory, and sometimes it hits before that landing zone. And unfortunately, it happened in that Arizona game on Thursday night last week. HTTR Carson writes, saw this crazy stat. Patrick Mahomes has played the most games without his top 2 wide receivers, 12. Next closest, Brady with 3. Is it possible Mahomes has become underrated? I've talked about this with Mahomes, not necessarily this particular stat, but I've just said he's had a lot of injuries around him. And I said before this season, I thought we were going to see like this Mahomes, I don't want to call it renaissance, because that would imply that he hasn't been good and he was down bad, and now he's about to see this resurgence. But there was a time where, like, Mahomes was in the MVP conversation every year, even if he didn't win it. The last 2 years, he hasn't played at that level. And I think it's been because they haven't had the talent. Forget about injuries. They haven't had the talent. This year, they have the talent. It just hasn't been healthy. And so getting Xavier Worthy back, you saw the difference that made, right? Hollywood Brown healthy, Xavier Worthy healthy. They're going to get Rashee Rice back here shortly. All of a sudden, it's going to look like a totally different Patrick Mahomes. So I'm not surprised that he threw 4 touchdown passes on Sunday against the Ravens, because as they get healthier and healthier, that offensive line is going to get better, because that Simmons kid is a beast. That offensive line is going to get better and better and better. And then the weapons around him are going to get better and better and better. And they're going to grow together. And soon you're going to look up and Mahomes is out here, 38 this week, 45 the next week, 37. And you're like, shit, he's back. All right, let's see. D'Angelo writes, yo, I'm the one that got bro. I couldn't believe him running that much tonight. I thought you took him off. So that he was the one that sent me, we won, bro. And I'm like, no, we didn't win shit. You won. But congratulations to my guy, D'Angelo. He sent me the pics and I looked, I was like, oh, okay, that's all the joints I gave it. And he didn't have the Bo Nix running component, which, yeah, that was all me. That was me. I should have just took the passing yards, either that or the touchdown passes. I could have gone in some. I could have gone with Marvin Mims because I told y'all Marvin Mims was going to exceed the amount of receiving yards that they had him down for. So I could have gone in a number of different directions. I screwed the pooch tonight, and I deserve what I got. So congratulations to my guy D'Angelo, man. Happy for you, bro. Anyway, I digress. So that is going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of Monday Night Football Overtime. Doubleheader style. I think this is the last doubleheader we're going to get until late in the season. I think there's one more of these. You know, they always like to do these early in the season. We've had 2 in the first 4 weeks. Both of these games were really non-competitive. But I was telling my wife, I said, I love this doubleheader shit, though. Like, I especially like it when it's like tonight. I don't love it when it's like the first one where it's a true doubleheader. One game comes on and then the second one comes on because it's so damn late. Not that I mind because I'm a night owl, but I like it when it's staggered like this, where it's first game starts at 7:15 and then the next game starts at 8:20. And I'm like, got 2 games on simultaneously. I love this shit. And I was looking, I'm standing in front of the TV. I'm like, sit your ass down on the couch. And I'm just standing in front of the TV, arms folded, and I turned to my wife and I said, I love this shit. She's like, I could see your football, juices flowing, and I can see you really getting too excited about this. And both of these games were ass, to be honest with you, but I just love football. And I don't take these moments for granted because I realize it feels like the season just started last week. We're already into week 5. This thing is going to fly by. Before you know it, we're going to be talking about trick-or-treating and Halloween, and we're going to be in week 8. And then you're going to look up again, and you're like, shit, it's Thanksgiving, and it's week 12. So I don't take these for granted. I enjoy every one of these opportunities to watch football, even if the games, like they were tonight, are absolutely garbage can juice. Enjoy them. You had to know, after the gem of a football game we got last night, the Cowboys and the Packers and a 40-40 tie, you had to know you were going to have to pay tonight. Okay? So it's all good, right? Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. 2 winners tonight. Dolphins get off the schneid. Someone's had to go. 2 winless teams squaring off in the AFC East, and the Dolphins prevail, and they get to 1-3 on the season with a 27-21 victory. Meanwhile, the Jets dropped to 0-4 and are in search of their first win. Still one of 3 winless teams, as we talked about tonight, left in the NFL. Meanwhile, the Denver Broncos were riding a 2-game losing streak. They snapped that streak tonight with an impressive 28-3 victory, smothering the Cincinnati Bengals, who are now losers of 2 straight themselves. As I said, both of these teams seem like they're heading in opposite directions, although they sport the same record. Broncos seem like a really good football team with a chance. And I said they could easily be undefeated like the Bills and Eagles, but instead they're 2-2. That's that fine line we talk about in the NFL. Meanwhile, so their arrow is pointing upwards. Meanwhile, no Joe Burrow. The Burrow-less Bengals have lost 2 straight, and it's been 2 straight ass whoopings, BTA style. 40, what did we say? 40-10, 45-10, or I think, what was it? 48-10 last week, 28-3 this week. They've been outscored 76-13 in the last 2 weeks. They're heading in the opposite direction. So those are your outcomes from tonight. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys throughout the week. We have a NFC West showdown, family business, on Thursday Night Football this week between the Rams and the 49ers, a couple of 3-1 teams getting it on. So that should be an interesting contest, to say the least. So that'll be the next time I see you for overtime. But until then, you guys have a good one. Take care. You know what it is. God bless and good night. Peace.